Welcome back to Fantasy for the Ages, everyone, which is presumptuous. This might be the first one you've watched, but I don't think so by now.
It's
Because
unlikely with the title.
that's right, I'm the father, this is the son, and we get together talking to you about fantasy, science fiction, and other nerdy stuff we like to geek out about. This is our fourth Book Blast episode on The Expanse, where Zach is taking his journey through these fantastic books. We're here today to talk to you about Cibola Burn. Fair warning, we might reference things from the previous books, so we're assuming you've read those if you're listening to this one, but we're spoiler light about the things specifically in this book. While this book definitely has its moments, it's one of my less favorite of the core novels, actually.
Okay.
What was your general reaction to the book?
I'm going to generically say I can understand that. Not because I agree necessarily, but because it's very different than all of the other books.
Yeah.
All of the other books so far have taken place with a lot of space and travel and time jumps as things continue and moving from event to event. This one has some of that, but it really is a piece that highlights this one location and this one story that takes place there and the continuation and the attempted survival. And it's really interesting and cool. I enjoyed it very much. I think I enjoyed that it was different while still holding true to a lot of the things that I've loved, a lot of the characters that I've loved.
We have one character come back from way back in the beginning, Havelock.
Yeah, that was a really interesting thing to see, actually. Well, especially because at this point, I'm going to spoil a little bit for the show. When I saw that in the book, was at a point in the show where I thought he was dead. I was like, you killed him? How can you kill him? He comes back. And then I later found out, oh, they didn't kill him. They just almost killed him.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he can still potentially come back, or maybe he doesn't. But it was just a weird, oh, okay. But also having a character that had a connection to Miller in the same way that our crew did, but very different experiences, very different connections, and not necessarily connections to each other, was also an interesting thing to see play out, especially considering some of the things we saw during the book.
Yeah, this Miller guy, man. He's dead, right?
I mean, now? Maybe.
Maybe.
We thought so before. Truthfully, yes. Miller has been dead.
Yeah.
However, the investigator, it reaches out.
There are some things going on with this protomolecule, with this alien technology, and we're getting more and more pieces of things. And this book really kind of does tip into that they don't really know what the heck they're doing.
No, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing with new worlds and planets and things. They don't know what they're doing with protomolecule, who created it, where they're from.
Stumbling around
they don't
in
know
the dark.
What to do with the fact that they're not around anymore and what made them go away. The big old smoking gun. In fact, there's a smoking bullet that I'm sure won't in some way come back in the series later on. It's not like the series started being called Leviathan Wakes and ends being called Leviathan Falls. It's not like that's going to come back to bite them in any way, shape, or form.
What are some series ramifications that you might predict, somewhat cryptically, from this book?
Little obviously, partially from, it's spelled out to us near the end. We have an unfortunate Oregon Trail that is not going to be good in a number of ways. But also, from a moral ethics standpoint, feels right. It's really hard to say this is wrong, because it feels like you're being a parent saying, no, you shouldn't do this for your own good. But what gives you the right to say that over other people? They're all people. So it's a very complicated situation where we get into that politics of stuff. And I really stand by the side of, people should get to be people. But also, we've seen, not just anecdotally, but we know for a fact it's not safe and a lot of people are gonna die. Yeah. And they might even do something that leads to a lot more other people also dying because of their stupidity. It's not, the toddler is getting into some things that they probably shouldn't put in their mouths, they might get sick. No, it's the toddler's playing with the lighter over by the gasoline that's next to the tanks of propellant, and they won't just light the house on fire, but they might accidentally blow up the entire neighborhood or city. It's fine. We should tell them, don't do that.
I think my favorite storyline plot point from this particular book was the whole issue with degrading orbits. And that whole tension. Again, that's cryptic enough. I'm not saying what happened and all, but I loved them having to work all of that out and all the shenanigans between the different ships.
I will say this about the series continues while not being perfect in its science. Unfortunately, the friend I gotten to start reading this, he does more physics stuff than I do, and decided within like the first 4 chapters to immediately actually write out a physics problem to figure out if something would work. And it was like a 10th off. If it was a degree of 10 different, it would have like killed someone. Instead, it should have only just like bruised him. Whatever. But the point that it cares, it tries and is not that far off. It's like, yes, it's off, but in a way that makes a lot of sense.
There's some authenticity.
It's really nice to see. And so with the degrading orbits and how they circumvented it was really interesting, creative, but kind of plausible.
Any last thing you want to say about this book before we wrap up this book blast?
I kind of hope we never end up on this planet again. I don't have anything wrong with it, besides all the things wrong with it. While I enjoyed it for the setting for this book, and I think having certain places be a setting for a book is not a bad thing, the Expanse so far has done a good thing of not recycling and rehashing things too much. And I think this is another example. Use this and propel it forward. Don't fall back into this gravity well.
Sounds good. All well said. All right. Again, if you've enjoyed this episode, like it, please consider subscribing to our channel. We hope to see you around social media, maybe our Discord server, or even on Patreon. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll talk to you next time.